Hey Aries, and welcome to your Aquarius season reading, February 2025. I was going to do the air signs first, but I was like, kept thinking of Aries, so Aries, here we are. All information to work with me one-on-one is below. I have a free guided meditation that I'll be putting out for every season starting now. It will grow and evolve. I hope you check it out. Let me know if you like it, leave a comment. That will be in one of the links below, right below the Patreon link. So we do a second part to this general reading where we get more in depth into, especially if the transits come out, the transits in the cards. We also ask questions about them because a lot is moving and we're going to have a lot of direction and redirection by the end of the month. And you especially are having probably a lot of breakthroughs right now, a lot of wanting to redirect, or you may not even think of it that way because you're someone who, like, this is just direction. You're not someone who normally regrets, especially if you act and do what you want to do, regardless of the consequences. Like, you don't have huge regrets. But you may find that things come up that you have the choice to regret or realize that it was a place to learn. So you have that opportunity, kitty in the background. You have that opportunity right now and you have so much support. We have a lot moving into Aries. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with this. Actually, Aries gave me this chair. A lot moving into Aries. And yours, I do believe, like, you are starting to feel, this is a little preface to our reading, you're starting to feel that. We're all feeling a shift, but you're probably feeling some undertones, especially if you're feeling like you're an urgency to wrap some things up, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, to finish something, to heal something, to clarify something. Chiron went direct in your sign right before the month started. So already there was a release, a relief, and yet it's also this ability to finally handle and deal with, if you need to, anything that has been stuck, and that's the wounded healer. Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and even like wherever it lands in your chart, you probably have dealt with that and been dealing with that. It will leave Aries soon enough, but for now Chiron is still there. And so that's just noticing, like, what doesn't feel as heavy, what maybe felt like you haven't had freedom over or understanding of, or you maybe felt disconnected to something inside yourself perhaps, and you didn't know. Like, you just knew there was this feeling, and all of a sudden there's this shift, and maybe in a long time, maybe your whole life, regardless, you should feel some type of internal change at this time. And lot's being directed, and I would say that it's a domino effect for you because, you know, it's 11th house all the way through the 4th house is what's showing up for you. So I think it's going to be very interesting, especially the very intuitive and synchronistic subconscious things that come to you this month, ideas that come to you, opportunities by other people, and your ability to just have this huge awareness. In one way that you've been redirected is to say no where you can. And if you're not ready to say yes or no, saying, like, being honest and upfront of, like, I have some stuff going on. I like to give things my present time. Can we touch base on this in a month? Can we touch base on this in a couple weeks? What is my timeline is another great question to another person if they're approaching you, because by the time Jupiter is in Gemini on the 4th, we have more cards down here. On the 4th, you will be revealed to why you needed that time. Why you need that time. Some things are maybe communicated to you. So domino effect starts possibly negative. That's how everyone's month is starting, with a lot of shit especially on the levels of how the shit is found within you. So basically, like, if you have not been working on yourself and this is stuff that's new to you and it's not something you've been aware of or have been conscious to, it's gonna feel like a shit ton of shit. Not that you don't like a good challenge, but anything that you've written off, whether it's been physical, your body, your health, mental, your mind, the boundaries you have with that, emotional, where you're triggered, where you still have attachments to, spiritual, what you believe, don't believe in, what you don't know yet as well. Every level and layer is being kind of pressed upon at this point, especially given the parts in your chart, but intuitively here, there's just a lot that's going to come out. And even to yourself, you may find you're on defense, but really what you're discovering beyond feeling maybe defensive, or when you approach this person, their defensiveness that comes up, whether it's you or another person, it's just showing where you've been in protection mode, especially mentally, and how that affects you emotionally and how that affects your ability to, and your also your decision on whether you want to work with this person. If it's romantic, there was an opportunity here, but now you're discovering, because you've rediscovered, reconnected to, have been directed and guided to be a lot more disciplined on how you let out your energy and what you say yes to and what you say no to. You have a big generous heart. You have a lot to give is what I was going to say. And then I was like, generous. And I was like, generous? No. You have a lot to give and you're very generous, especially when you got it. Even when you don't, you are in the ways that you don't, right? That's where Libra and Aries have a similarity. So what you're now being exposed to through Jupiter going direct is that you're lucky. This doesn't feel lucky, but you are lucky that you realized this before you committed to anything, before you said yes, especially if there's like a trip involved or meeting family members, wherever stage you're at, because now you have time to actually assess if this is the right thing for you. It's probably not. But what it does do for you, oh, we're going to read the bottom, baby. We're going to read the bottom. I get why you wanted to have a chat. Because this trickles down from the communities that you've been involved in as well, and you've realized where your good fortune sometimes lies. It lies hidden for some of us, especially don't feel lucky. We're all lucky in our own ways, and regardless of what you've been through, there's always a time and space where you can look at in your life where you've had some luck, right? You've had some luck probably with your physical body, and you've gotten away with some shit for some time because you are a very physical person, and the disconnection between that and your spiritual beliefs. But now is a time to deeply connect that and thread in your life. Like, what groups of people do you just realize that you no longer connect with? And it's no shade, and it will do better to actually not leak your energy there, or this person, or this business, or this situation, or this work environment, right? Because and the more that you decide no internally, even if it's not an external thing right now, I do always, as a life coach, I'm someone who likes to exercise and someone who also knows human design. This is where I got the idea from. No one gave me that idea. I was just more of my own, and I will express this over and over again in readings as necessary, that when you decide within yourself, then you get a lot of opportunities around, like, that come around you. As a Gemini, or no, my God, you're not a Gemini, as an Aries, more than likely you are someone who's very independent, but there's other people are involved somehow. That's just how Aries are. There's a connection to the world that you like to be a part of. That's amazing. And that you need to be a part of, as does Libra, but it's just different. Even if you work on your independent, you have to communicate or be in contact with people on some level. So from here, you realize that your generosity has boundaries now. There is an upgrade to what you're deciding, whether it's influence of the world or just from these interactions, you're now seeing what would it feel like when you're in these situations to say no, to change your mind, to be different than people are used to disrupt the pattern. Maybe it's not as noticeable for you, but it will feel it. You'll feel it. So practicing it and noticing where it makes sense and then expanding it into your life, unless you just know, like go for it. If you know this, like this isn't going to work out, if you know this thing that's like you're getting validation about something that very similar, I think I said Gemini because very similar to them, they're just finding out some shit that they've been aware of, but they just didn't want to look at the person. They didn't want to look at that situation. They didn't want to look at this specific thing because they didn't want to find it there. And that happens with anyone, all of us. We don't want to find it. And maybe that's similar to you. Maybe you're dealing with a Gemini because, you know, the card is up. So if you want to look at their reading too. But there is an I don't want to laugh at this. I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable. The amount of information you probably find out about, and if they're not a Gemini, they have Gemini placements, right? This could be someone who's just connected to a lot of people and you find out something like that they've done unbeknownst to you, and it's something that you probably should know. So there's a lot of information that you're getting that's going to help make your decision, and it may hurt. It may hurt. And the cool thing about Venus being in Pisces right now and then moving into your sign is that you have the opportunity to deeply heal this and to connect with this, whatever else this is attached to in your life, right? Wherever this belief stems from, wherever this is rooted from, because the Lovers is also the lungs. So there's a way in which that you breathe this in your life, like just as a metaphor. And the way that you approach communication and talking, like you may notice like the way that you feel, and you have every right to be triggered. You have every validation to your feelings. However, you're going to notice that you've just been protecting yourself, from the connection of what you've learned and what you believe and what's off, right? The realignment, the planets are also aligning right now today, this week. So it's really, there's this feeling right now of alignment. It's this over accentuated. So if you feel yourself feeling really drawn or noticing that you keep thinking, or it's this obsession or this over correction of, I need to be in alignment, like I need to cleanse, like maybe you start to clean out some shit and you realize you don't need certain things, you don't want certain materials around, or overcorrection and communication with people. Maybe there's some healing to do on your end where you've been generous, and again, generous in one way, but not another, and what those people need from you is the other, and yourself. You'll notice that there will be an exchange of energy there. And I need a sip of water. Lots of lemon water with turmeric lately. And just listening to this and listening to it like you're a kid in action, ready to go, and you know this is the message that you needed, you know that this is what you learned, and you can anticipate some things now. What you need to anticipate at this time is being able to talk. So you feel like the King of Swords, right? Or you're approaching the King of Swords, but the Page of Swords is here to say this is how you need to approach conversation. Not being too overly demanding, not be too overly critical, but you need to apply some youthfulness here to yourself. You need to apply some flexibility, maybe wit and playful right now, because your intuition is very much on fire. And if you don't allow like a grounded root to it, then you can end up taking on too much without even realizing it, or becoming responsible for things that you need, where you need to place responsibility. And this is that independence that you've desired. And you may be going back and forth between the weight of the responsibility, but how much you have around you, and or if you're wanting to connect the spiritual with the physical and you're like going back and forth of the weight of that responsibility, you can have both. It's going to be calling for you anyway. I mean, huge transits moving in, outer planets moving into Aries this year. That's just you being called and pulled and magnetized towards what's real. A lot of times a loss or a breakdown or a breakthrough happens in order to not only heal but guide you. It's like this breakdown and breakthrough happens, like it's like having the tower moment, but we don't have it out here. And here, like, look at the light even changing, everything's dimming, is because it's showing you that through this dark moment, the light, it's breaking the light open, because you don't even realize that you're in a dark room, or you've placed a glass ceiling over yourself in form of connection, relationship, communication, how you extend yourself to the people around you, and vice versa. And there's this part of you that realizes that you might want to be a little bit more playful, a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more free with the amount of money or the amount of abundance that you have in any which way that is, and that you've been maybe overly focused on something because, and here's my breakthrough for you, you've been overly focused and trying to correct it because you're literally just patching holes. Like, you're just not wanting to feel what's in your heart. You're not wanting to admit what's actually happening to yourself. So you'll patch, when all of a sudden, like, shit just wants to break through. You know, you can't always decide those moments. Like, that's where cardinal signs don't realize. And I would even group Cancer into this because they're a little different. You don't get to choose when these moments happen. You can prepare yourself if you're willing to listen, but you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose this, right? This is where astrology and the cards come in and help you, give you a timeline. They help you. It's like sometimes it's a few years, sometimes you can see a few months, sometimes it's a couple weeks, sometimes it's the next fucking day. But what I'm saying is you can't control. That's where the control is actually happening, and your free will is how you choose to respond. If you're in that awareness, how you react, then how you respond, and how you choose to go about your life in this way. And you have two only major arcanas out besides the Ace of Pentacles is the two Gemini cards. You knew something deeply all along. It's just you didn't want to admit it, but it's also been blocking some of your intuition. It's been blocking this connection that really needs to happen, especially if you're, working in the spiritual world. If you're not, but even if you're working with money or you're working with anything, there's a spiritual essence to it all, right? That's what connects us. That's like the energetic thread. And it's also connected to your ego. Of course, how do we not talk about this without talking about ego? But Venus is going to show you ways in which, when it moves into your sign, what I wrote down is that it may direct you to allow certain relationships to fall away, and notice the ones that come back, or that the ones that you have are that renew, and what your focus is. So whatever comes up during that time when Venus is in your sign, the same day Jupiter moves, it's like whatever you decide on, you're doing it like right away. You're starting to make the change, because what you notice, you may not notice this. This may just be something actually instinctive with you that you do. It not only brings a lot of healing to you at first, which can be the breakdown. It can cause you to get sick. There's so many different things that it can cause, that you want to be connected because you want to know where to put all this energy that you have. And you don't want to overcorrect or overuse that energy in something that, 2 5s at the bottom. Next, you have 2s, and that's the inverse of 5 as well. Just looking at all the numbers. We have 2 9s chilling right next to each other too. Like what you've been protecting yourself is realizing that the abundance that you have is like learning to let go, learning to be more free. Sorry to keep doing that to myself. And the different ways you can actually communicate to others if you're willing to listen to yourself, to listen to your heart, how that connects to your mind, what patterns have been set out and that you've been following and doing just because you've been comfortable in them, but now is that chance. So circling back to the beginning, this opportunity, like this is just a very specific situation in your life to expose the kind of change that is possible right now, and that in the window of opportunity that we have as we're redirecting. Because it's like, you may really want that job, but if you're learning something critical in your life right now, just as an example, you really want that relationship, but you're learning something so deeply within the relationship that you're in, or being single, whatever the case may be. For when these planets start to go direct, that's when everything is going to happen. That's when you're going to find out if you get that job, or you're going to find out if it's time to break up, or if it's time to go to therapy or whatever's needed, or it's time to, and then you meet someone and you'll look back and appreciate that you had that time, and that time to readjust, the time to learn. But what did you do with it? Where did you focus? Were you elsewhere? It's a very air sign thing to be 2 places at once. And it's not something we're used to experiencing all the time, especially if you don't have any air in your chart. But if you do have major Gemini placements, this reading is very split, and it's like literally perfectly aligned, which happens to their readings a lot. So that energy is very much here. Is that everything changes when you start really deeply believing. You deeply believe in yourself, but there's something greater than you. That's that reconnection that maybe you've been missing. Maybe you go to a spiritual place. Maybe you need someone physical. Maybe you go see someone. Maybe you do this kind of interaction. Maybe you book reading. This, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to market myself, but maybe you do. Maybe you do something that validates or just reconnects you, and all of a sudden like shit changes. It's just that extra support so that you don't add more, so you're distracting yourself, because this is also a time where you can deeply distract yourself too, even though it's like really hard to right now, to be honest with you, because we're healing. The reason why also anything that comes up is going to feel extra heightened, extra strong, either extra joyful, extra confusing, is because it's a time to heal that. As the last parts of Pisces, we're in the last degrees of Pisces in certain signs. And so that's especially through your loss and subconscious and what's revealing to you now, what's laying dormant, wintertime, if you're also in winter. It gives you that opportunity to acknowledge it, to have a moment, to have a ritual, if you like ritual. Either way, you're able to, this can cause a domino effect in your life. It will, regardless. It's up to you how you want to handle it, see it, the way you communicate. Maybe you don't communicate great at first, then you realize like you were hurt, you explain yourself, you have that conversation, you take a lighter approach. Even if something's hurting you, right? It's not that you're being inauthentic to someone. It's more just like you need to work through it on your own and not take it out on others. Because if you do, there won't be as much of a give on the other end anymore. Depending on what it is that you're moving through. You might even have someone in your life who kind of snaps you out of something too. For some of you, this is like, it's just snapping you out of wherever needs to. It's like all the dominoes have been set, and now you're going to find out like the word that it's making, or the pattern, or the shape, or that's not about, I don't really know the game, if win or lose. I don't know how to play it competitively, but it's not, there's no competition happening right now. It's more just like an opportunity to just heal a lot and create new, and realize that all the space that you're creating from healing is going to allow this responsibility, or allow a freshen of energy, because you're willing to communicate with it. You're willing to connect with the light, with yourself. And this is the year 9 too, so loss and death. So if you find yourself losing money or needing to pay more or letting go and it's really affecting you physically, trusting and knowing that you believe it and that you're going to get it back tenfold, or one of those mantras, see what happens. Just see what happens, especially if something has made you afraid or tripped up one of your ways in which you're deeply confident. This is about your confidence too, very much so, about your ability to remain centered in yourself. And where you've swayed, Aquarius season is very obvious, especially for you, your communities that you're involved in, whether you feel like wherever your luck is going, if certain things aren't adding up, you'll start to see. And it's good for you, because if you are, again, going back to if you're like leaking that energy, there's someone else that can go in, and there's maybe a better place for you, or a place for you to create too on your own. So you can't have that without letting go of what's needed. It may surprise you. What's a little life without some surprise and mystery? I mean, we're here, right? All information to work with me one-on-one is below. Thank you for being here, liking, subscribing, sharing with anyone you feel could connect to these readings. I do them monthly. I have them on Patreon. I put up a guided meditation if you're interested. The second part, where we get deeper into the readings, we focused heavily on just certain transits. So we're going to see if anything else comes out. Either way, I hope this connects with you. Everything is below, and we'll see you next time, Aries. It's almost your birthday.